Hi guys, this is Mr. Leshin. It's good to be back here. Hope you're all doing good. How was your CBT test? We all did great. I've seen the results, but there's room for improvement. So before the CBT test, we started a topic on statistics about our group into two, the on-group data and the group data. So under the on-group data, we talked a lot about the frequency table, how to prepare a frequency table. Talked about how to calculate your mean, median, mode. I believe you studied that before because it came out in your CBD test. So we're continuing this week's topic, which is the group data, the other part of what the statistics, which is the group data. But in the previous class, we take note on when we're talking about variables. I told you about we have two types of variable: the discrete variable and the continuous variable. Under this discrete variable, I use a whole number to represent a number of frequencies. But in a continuous variable, whereby use a class interval, a range of numbers to represent a certain frequency. Probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 to 4. Any numbers that fall within the 1 to 4, their frequency is represented in one class interval. Unlike that, discrete, whereby you just use 1, write the frequency out, 2, write the frequency, 3, write the frequency, and 4, write the frequency. So that's the difference between the two. So that's what we'll be looking at basically in this group data. Before we continue, I'd like to share with you our lesson objective and the notes. So statistics, under the statistics, we are looking at the group data. This is a learning objective. At the end of the lesson, students should be able to explain the group frequency distribution. It's more or less like a group frequency table on the group data. When we call it group frequency distribution, it's a large, it's more compact than that of the on group data. It's more bigger than that of the on group data. So, but we look at it, I will explain everything to you. At the end of the class, I believe you'll be able to, you understand what we are talking about here. Prepare class interval, class limit, class boundary, class mark. These four parameters are, these four are the parameters of what group frequency distribution. They are parameters of what group data. The class interval, you must be able to explain it, you must understand it very well. Class limits, you must understand it. Class boundary, you must understand it. And the class mark for the group frequency distribution table, you must understand it. And the last thing is the what? Prepare a cumulative frequency table. I will explain all these as we go on in the class. First, what do we mean by group frequency distribution? This is used when a number of entities is given in the data is large. When the given data is very, very large, the construction of a frequency table will be very, very difficult to be hectic. Let's say we have a range of number from 1 to 50. And all these numbers, individual numbers, have their frequency in the data given. Probably 1 has 5, 4 has 8, 2 has this, and down to 50. It will be very, very hard to prepare a frequency distribution. Hence, that is why we need to group the data. Arrange them, let's say 1 to 5, 6 to, but during this range, there must be equal intervals. The intervals of this number, there must be equal limits. That's the difference between the difference between the range you are using for the first class must be equal to the difference you are using for the second class, down to the last class that you are selecting. I believe you understand what I'm saying. If you are saying 1 to 4, the difference between 1 to 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4. It must be the same as for the second interval. Let's say 5 to 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. Must be third one, maybe let's say 9 to 12, 9, 10, 11, 12. It must be the same. The difference between the ranges of number you are using must be the same. But there's something we call it, and that is called the class interval. But we look at it as we continue onto the next slide. So yes, hence there will be need to group the data. Before doing this grouping, the number of groups that the whole information should be divided must be ascertained. How you group the data, the number of classes that you have must be first ascertained, must be known. Most times it will be given in your questions. Most times it will be given in your concern, and sometimes it will just given to you already. So in grouping any numerical data, the following statistical parameters must be examined. The following parameters must be examined. So what are these parameters? Number 1, you have your class interval, which is most important. You have to know very, very well. The class interval is the number of groups that a particular data is classified. Probably we are grouping these numbers in 8. You are grouping them in 10. You are grouping them in 12. This is the class interval. Class interval 1, class interval 2, class interval 3, down to the last one you are given. So this is the number of group A. Given data is classified. Each interval will therefore contain equal limits. Each interval will therefore contain equal limits of the data that is being analyzed. They are the limits, that is one end to another end. The difference between their limits must be the same all through through the grouping. Example, consider the weight of a number of students given below measured in kilograms. Consider the weight of a number of students. So I just want to use this example to explain the class interval better for you. Consider the weight of number of students given. How many numbers of students we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Why I counted for you is that if you are doing a group data, you must not be lazy. You must be able to count all your figures very, very well to ascertain your numbers rightly. So we have 50 numbers of students and we are given what? Intervals. We are given their what? Frequency. The least number here is what? 8. And the highest number here is what? 40. But first in class interval, this is how you look at the question now. Suppose we want to classify, I told you class interval is about grouping, grouping data, what each what classes. So if you want to classify the data into 8 equal intervals, the process is as follows. This is how you will now get your class interval and the difference between what class interval for each what group. Find the least number, which is what 18. Highest number is what 8, 40. Find the range. What's the range? Range means what difference between the what highest and the what lowest. That is subtracting the lowest data from the what highest data, you get your range. So 40 minus 18 will give you what 22. So therefore, the width of each class, which is the number of units, that is, they told us to divide the class into what 8. They told us to divide it into 8 equal intervals. The difference between these intervals must be the same for the 8 what classes. So you say 22 divided by 8, which will give you what 2.75. We are not dealing with points here. We are dealing with what whole number. So you divide approximate this one to give what 3, to give you what 3, to give you what 3. So look at it now. The figure 2.75 can be approximated to 3. Therefore, in order to get 8 equal intervals, each grouping must contain 3 units. That is 18 to 20, 18, 19, 23, 21 to 23. That is 21, 22, 23, 24, 26, 24, 25, 26. So these are the difference between the numbers. These are the what different. Look at the class intervals. 3 units what between what each classes. 3 units is the difference between what each classes. Look at this now. 18 to 20. We'll take this first example and we'll continue from there. I'll just take this to explain it. So we have what the frequency is 11. How is the frequency 11? Look at this 18 to 20. Let's count. 1, 18 is a 1, 20 is 2, 19 is 3, 19 is 4, 19 is 5, 18 is 6, 19 is 7, 18 is 8, 19 is 9, 19 is 9, 18 is 10. Sorry, we made a mistake somewhere. Let's count again. 1, 18, 1. You have to be very, very careful. 22, 19, 3. This is 3 here, 18 to 20. We are looking at 18 to 23. So 4, 5, 6. Just follow the course of 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10, and 11. You can see it's 11. You have to be very, very careful. You have to be very, very careful. So the interval is what? The frequency is what? 11. So that's why we have 11 here. That is the ranges from 18 to 20 is what? 11. Take a look at that. 21 to 23. Let's go again. 21 to 23 is what? This 22 is part of this 1. So 21 to 23, 2. 23 is a 2. 21 is a 3. And 21 is a 4. So that's why you have the frequency to be what? 4. You write out the strokes, the tally. So this is how to prepare what? A group frequency distribution table. Now you can see the interval is what? From the question, it says 8 intervals. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And each group must have the same what? Difference in what? In their range. Which is what? How we calculate this. The range, find the range of the highest and the lowest number divided by the what? The total number what? Interval you ask to what? Group. To give you what? The difference what? In between. So next thing we're going to do, we'll look at the class limits. Class limit is the end of each class interval. From the look at this. Let me take the notes. The end number in the class intervals are called the class limits. The end numbers. That is from the first from the previous example, we have what 18 to 20, which is the first class interval. 18 is the what lower class limit, and 20 is the what upper class limit. They are end numbers. So we have two class limits. You have the upper, which is the highest class limit, and the lower, which is lower what class what limit. So 18 to 20 in the class interval, 18 is the what lower class limit, and 20 is the what higher class limit. When you talk about limit, that is the end. When you say limit from English, you say end. That is the lowest number is what 18. Nothing beyond what 8. Nothing beyond 18, and nothing what above what 20. We are looking for the numbers between the range of what 18 and 20. Second interval says 21 to 23. Where 21 is what the lower class limit. That is the limit. Nothing you don't count 20 into it. 21 is the lowest limit, and the highest number you're looking at in that group is what 22. So From here now, you have your lower class limit to be 18 year, and higher class limit to be 20 year. Here, lower class limit to be what? 21. Higher class limit to be what? 23 years. So that's what about class limits. So class boundary, this is also gotten from what? Your class limit or your class interval. That is, you subtract the lower class limit by 0.5 and add the upper class limit by what? 0.5. Just subtract the lower class limit or the class interval by 0.5 and our upper class limit by what? 0.5. That is, from the first class interval, we have 18 to 20. 18 is the lower class limit, subtract by 0.5, you get what? 17.5. And 20 is the higher class limit, add 0.5, you get what? 20.5. That's why they said where 17.5 is the lower class boundary and 20.5 is the upper class boundary. 20.5 is the upper what? Class boundary. So we look at the what? Class mark. Class mark, this is another parameter, which is what? The midpoint. It's more or less like the median. We call it, we can also call it the median, but we call it class mark in group data. It's the median. That is, you add the upper class limit plus the lower class limit divided by 2 to give you the midpoint. Look at the first class interval here. 18 lower class interval and lower class limit and the upper class limit. 18 plus 20 divided by 2 to give you what? The class mark, which is what? 13, which is the midpoint. From the notes, it says the center or midpoint of any class interval is called the class mark. The center or midpoint, the median, the middle number of any class interval is called what? The class mark. This is got by adding the lower class and the upper class limits together and dividing by the result. So the class mark is given in the data below. So for 21 to 23, 21 plus 23 divided by 2 will give you 23. So down to the class, that is the last class interval, which is 39 plus 41 divided by 2 will give you what? 40. So this is how you get to what? Your class mark. So I believe you now understand the parameters of what? Group frequency, group distribution frequency, which is what? The class interval, the class limits, the class boundary, and the what? The class mark. Class interval is how you, the number of groups or class, how you classify your what? Given data. Class limit is the what? The lowest, the end or number of each class what? Interval. That is, we have the lower class limit and the upper class limit. Class boundary is gotten from your class limit, subtracting the lower class limit by 0.5, and what? Adding the class limit by what? Upper class limit by what? 0.5. While class mark is the what? Is the midpoint of this what? Class limit. So let's look at the cumulative frequency table. This is a bit different from the what? Normal frequency, but this is how to prepare how you prepare your cumulative frequency. The cumulative frequency of a particular class is got by adding the frequency of the particular class to the frequency of the class before it. Therefore, the cumulative frequency table is the table that shows the cumulative frequencies of the classes. When you mean cumulative, that is the total sum, the addition of all the frequency. The last number of every frequency, cumulative frequency, shows gives the what? The total number of what? All the frequency. Like in the previous example, we have 50 students, which the number of frequencies is what? 50. So the cumulative frequency, the last cumulative frequency must be equal to what? 50. So that's what I say. But how do you prepare your frequency? The first cumulative frequency for the first class is also equal. It's also the same as the what? The frequency of the what? Class interval. The frequency of the what? Class interval. So the first cumulative frequency is the same as the what? First frequency of the class interval. So the table derived can be used to do a lot. That is, can be used to what? Plot a cumulative frequency curve. Yes, you can plot a cumulative frequency from your what? Cumulative frequency table. From your cumulative frequency table, you can plot your what? Cumulative frequency curve. And this curve is called OGIF, and also used to determine the total number of students falling within the certain values on given information or data. On given information or data. So look at this. From the previous data we've been using earlier, look at the class interval. You all know how to prepare your class interval, the tally and the frequency gotten. So I told you earlier, your first frequency, cumulative frequency, is also equal to the what? The frequency. The first frequency of the class is also equal to the what? The first frequency of the class. Your first cumulative frequency is also equal to the first frequency of the class. So the second one is now gotten by what? Look at it. 11 plus 4, you get the second frequency of the class. Second cumulative frequency of the class. 11 plus 4 will give you what? 15. So the third frequency will be what? 15 plus what? 8. Add the frequency to the what? Next one. The cumulative frequency to the what? Next one will give you what? 23. 23 plus 7 will give you what? 30. 30 plus 5 will give you what? 35. 35 plus 5, thereabout, you get what? 43 plus 7 will give you what? 50. And look at the example from the above, from the beginning, told you have what? This frequency, you have what? 50 students. So the last cumulative frequency must be equal to the number of what? The frequency. That's when you know that you are what? You are correct. That's when you know you are what? Correct. I believe you understand that. So let's take this example. The following are the marks of 50 students of God First International School in the final examination. The following are the marks of 50 students of God First International School in the final examination. Look at these are the marks of 50 students. And total frequency is what? Total number of frequency is what? 50. But it ranges from what? The mark 65, 70, thereabout. Prepare the data using 7 equal class intervals. Now, in the previous example we were talking about, that one is 8 equal intervals. But now this one is what? 7. Is what? 7. And you know, from this class interval, you know how to get your what? The limits between the what? Class interval. The difference between the what? The class limits. That is the upper class limits and the lower class limits. There are differences that we should use to what? Grouping the what? Class intervals. 1. Prepare a group frequency table. 2. A cumulative frequency table. A group frequency table and a what? Cumulative frequency table. So how do you go about that? I told you first thing first is what? Find the list number and the what? Highest number. Find their range. Divide by the what? The required number of what? Equal interval. Then you get what? Difference in what? How you now get your what? Difference or regular pattern or sequential class in what? Interval. Now the list number here is what? 47. If you look at it very, very well. And the highest number is what? 73. So how do we now go about that? First thing first, you do what? The list mark is 47 and the highest mark is 73. Therefore, the width of the class is what? 73 minus 47. And you told us is what? 7 equal intervals. 7 equal. So you divide by what? 7, which will give you what? 3.71. We are not dealing with points. Obviously, what? Approximate to give you what? 4 units. So the difference between the class will now be what? 4. The list number is what? Start from the list number is what? 47, 47, 48, 49, 50. That gives you the first class interval. 51, 52, 53, 54. Give you the second interval. 55, 56, 57, 58. Down to the what? The 7th one. That's how you get your what? Difference in the, that we call it width. The width of the what? Each class. The width of the what? Each what? Class. And it's gotten by what? Dividing the range by the number of what? Class required interval. First question says we should prepare a what? Group frequency table, which is what? The class interval. We've gotten the class interval, the tally, and the frequency. 47 to 50. Now let's take that one as an example. I use that to explain the other. 47 to 15. We have what? 7. So let's cross check. 47 to 50. You have to look very, very well. 47 is what? 1 to 50. 1, 2. 48 is among 3. 49 is among 4. 48 is among 5. 49 is among 6. And that's 6. So we have to look again. 47 to 50. So this is 1, 2, follow the cursor please, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're getting 6, it should be 7. Let's look again, it should be 7. So 47 to 50, this is a mistake somewhere. 1, 2, 47 to 50, it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It should be 6, not 7. It should be what? 6. 47 ranges from what? 47 to 50 in the interval is what? 6 and not what? 7. It's 6 and not 7. Because this is 47. This is 47 again, 2 to 50. And this is another one. 47 to 50, 48 is 3, 49 is 4, and this is 48 is 5, 6, it should be 6 and not 7. The range is what? 6. So thereabouts, this is how you calculate everything to get your what? Interval. It should be 6 and not 7. 6. So looking at it like that, so you have your what? Frequency distribution table. So look at the 51 to 54. That's 7 also. Let's cross check. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, and 7. So this one is complete. This one is correct. It's what? 7. Unlike the 47 to 50 that we didn't get right, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I knew it was correct. 47 to 50 is what? 7 and not 6. It's what? 7 and not 6. It's correct. So you have to look very, very well. You have to look at it very, very, very well. Look at your frequency very, very what? Very well. It is 7 and not 6. So you have to be careful in what? Looking at everything very, very well. Cross check before you make any what decision. It's 7. So 55 to 58. Let's look at it again. That's 7 also. 55 to 58. 55 to 58. 1. 55 to 58. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 55 to 58 is also what? 7, and that is what are also correct. 55 to 58 is also what? 7, and that is also what? Correct. So you look at everything very, very well. You take your time to cross-check what all the data is very, very well. I'm doing this because I'm training you, because in doing your frequency, group frequency table, you must look and look again to get your data right. Because if you make any mistake, it's going to affect your what? Final answer, which is what? The cumulative what? Frequency table. It's going to affect your answer, which is what? The cumulative frequency table. So the second question is how to prepare your what? Group frequency table, the class interval, the tally, and the frequency. So the second one is what? The cumulative frequency table. The cumulative what? Frequency table. So this is how to prepare what? I told you earlier, you just add the first one. The first cumulative frequency is equal to the what? The frequency of the first class. Is equal to the what? Frequency of the first class. So how do you get the second one? Is by adding it what? To the next frequency. And the 7 plus 7 will give you what? 14. 14 plus 7 will give you what? 21. 21 plus 8 will give you what? 29. 29 plus 1 will give you what? 11 will give you what? 40. 40 plus 6 will give you what? 46. 46 plus 4 will give you what? 50. You know the question says 50 students, 50 what? Frequency. So the last number on the frequency table must be equal to what? The cumulative what? Frequency. The cumulative frequency, the last number there must be equal to what? The sum of what? All the what? Frequencies are given. So this is what we'll be looking at as the introduction in our what? Group frequency distribution for our what? Our group data. So this will come to the end of the class. We come to the end of the class. Attached to the online notes is an sent an assignment attached to the online notes. With this explanation and the notes given on your online notes, you'll be able to what? Solve what? All the questions. Next class, we'll be looking at how to calculate the mean, median, and mode of what? Group data. Thank you and have a nice day.